Straight ahead on Law and Crime Daily. Brian Laundrie's sister breaks her silence.
No, I do not know where Brian is. I'd turn him in.
This as a tip leads to a meeting with the feds. Could Laundrie be hiding along the Appalachian Trail? And Kyle Rittenhouse back in the courtroom. What to expect ahead of his November 1st trial. Plus, a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist turned defense witness. Reporter John Carreyrou pushes back after Elizabeth Holmes adds him to her witness list. And later, a phone call from jail with an explicit request.
Specifically asked to make sure he wipes everything off the phone to include the SD card.
The phone call Mark Gooch made after his arrest for the murder of Sasha Krause. Law and Crime Daily covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome everyone to Law and Crime Daily. I'm Brian Buckmeyer along with Terry Austin. As the search for Brian Laundrie moves forward, his sister is speaking out, and so are Gabby Petito's parents. Law and Crime's Anjanette Levy is here with their message and what's happening with one possible Laundrie sighting.
Brian, Cassie Laundrie is Brian Laundrie's older sister. She spoke to protesters in ABC News, and she told both of them that she doesn't know where her brother is as the FBI searches for him.
Brian Laundrie is on the run, a person of interest in the death and disappearance of his fiancée, Gabby Petito. Laundrie's older sister, Cassie, appearing in an exclusive interview on Good Morning America, answering questions about her parents.
I don't know if my parents are involved. I think if they are, then they should come clean.
Cassie Laundrie went on to say she doesn't know where her brother is and last saw him on September 6th when she met him and her parents for the afternoon at Fort DeSoto Park, where they were camping. The interview comes after a hiker claimed to have spotted Brian Laundrie near the Appalachian Trail early Saturday morning near the North Carolina-Tennessee border in a white truck. The Appalachian Trail runs from Georgia to Maine.
He said, I'm trying to get to California. And I was like, well, geez, that's not what I was expecting, thinking to myself. And then he went on and said, yeah, me and my girlfriend got in a fight. And she called me and told me that she loves me and I've got to get to California to see her.
Minutes later, Dennis Davis said he checked his phone to look at photos of Laundrie.
When I saw that profile view, my heart just jumped out of my chest because I was absolutely 100% for sure that was him.
Meanwhile, Gabby Petito's parents are appearing on Dr. Phil this week with a plea to Brian Laundrie.
If he's watching this and stranger things have happened, what would you say to him if he's watching this right this minute?
This is where I should wash my mouth, right?
Turn yourself in.
Turn yourself in.
Turn yourself in. Turn yourself in.
Turn yourself in.
Now back to Dennis Davis. He is an engineer from Florida, and he told me that he'll actually be meeting with the FBI on Wednesday to tell them more about this person that he encountered near the Appalachian Trail. Brian?
Thanks, Anjanette. Joining us today is legal analyst Dina Dahl and Terry Austin. Dina, I love that we can get some answers, but harassing people outside of their homes like this can't be legal, and it can't be good for the investigation, right?
Well, I imagine that these reporters are not actually on her private property, so they're not trespassing. Could they be a public nuisance? Possibly. But, this is common. This is a high-profile case. The media wants to know, this insatiable urge to have all information. The sister came out and did an almost 20-minute interview with the press outside asking them to leave. And you do sympathize with the fact that this has become like, nonstop coverage at her house. But really, the best thing she could do is just not to engage in them because legally, if you're on public property, a city rarely intervenes in that public nuisance case, and that's the most that she could allege with this.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking more about the protesters and how that played out, and also thinking, what if Brian Laundrie's watching this and making plans along with what he's hearing? And that was kind of my concern there as well. Terry, do these facts that you've heard from the sister or anyone else change anything in your belief as to where Brian Laundrie may be?
No, they don't change anything. In fact, I think that the entire family is withholding information. Cassie is a bit more forthcoming than her parents, but not much more. She said she never saw any domestic violence. She doesn't know where he is, but she did admit to seeing him during this camping trip on September 6th. And as far as I'm concerned, if you saw him, if your parents saw him, he came back on September 1st alone without Gabby. You must ask him, where is Gabby? And he disappeared. You must have asked, where are you going? So I don't believe any of them, and the parents won't even come out in public.
Absolutely. And Jeanette, you found out some new information about the timeline in this case, right?
Yeah, definitely, Brian. You know, remember, we've talked so much about that traffic stop in Moab, Utah on August 12th, where police separated Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. That was August 12th. Now we're learning that 5 days later, on August 17th, Brian Laundrie flew back to Florida from Salt Lake City, cleared out their storage unit that they shared together. The family attorney, Steve Bertolino, told me that he was doing that so they could save money. They were thinking about extending their trip. Then on the 23rd, Brian Laundrie goes back out west and meets up with Gabby again, according to Bertolino. And then you'll recall that August 27th, we've also talked about this, is when a woman said she witnessed a fight between Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie at the Mary Piglet's restaurant. So we're learning a little bit more about what happened in between the August 12th and the August 27th date.
Absolutely. Thank you for those additional details and the analysis. As the manhunt for Brian Laundrie stretches into another day, so does a search for answers in the murder of Gabby Petito. Many looking for warning signs in body camera video taken of the pair. This video was shot on August 12th when Moab City police officers responded to a call that Laundrie physically hit Petito. When officials separated the pair, Petito herself admitted to hitting Laundrie first. Law&Crime Network spoke with domestic violence intervention facilitator Karen Nance, who says the responding officers did their job correctly and that there was no obvious threat to Gabby Petito's life.
In their opinion, she's not a threat, a physical threat to the other party, and so they don't want to arrest her. They feel that this is a happy couple. They're an engaged couple. They're traveling together, so they're trying to come up with a solution that works for both of the parties. And they don't really perceive her as someone that can or will hurt the other individual.
And in Florida, jury selection is underway for Nikolas Cruz, the Parkland shooter, who is now facing trial for a much different crime. Cruz faces battery charges for a November 2018 incident where prosecutors say he attacked a jail guard. This happened months after the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas school shooting, where Cruz allegedly shot and killed 14 students and 3 staff members. Jury selection in the battery case was delayed for 1 day due to defense attorney David Wheeler suffering from an extreme medical issue and being hospitalized. The judge also ruled to delay the trial for 1 week, allowing a replacement for David Wheeler to get up to speed on the case. The trial is now set to begin on October 18th. A trial has not yet been set for the Parkland, Florida mass shooting. For those charges, Cruz hoped to plead guilty in exchange for life in prison, but prosecutors insisted on taking the case to trial in order to seek the death penalty. Still ahead on Law&Crime Daily, the reporter who first broke the Theranos fraud story is added as a witness for the defense. We take a look forward in the federal trial of Elizabeth Holmes. But first, another pretrial hearing for accused Kenosha shooter Kyle Rittenhouse, who the defense wants to call to testify in the November trial. All that and more next.
Hi, this is Dan Abrams with exciting news for all of our Law&Crime followers on YouTube. You can now get the live Law&Crime network with YouTubeTV for all of your daily live trial coverage, legal news, expert analysis, and original true crime programs. Subscribe to YouTubeTV today and then locate Law&Crime in the channel guide. And for only $1.99 a month, you can add the network to your bundle. Watch Law&Crime every day with YouTubeTV. We put you in the jury box.
Welcome back. Accused Kenosha shooter Kyle Rittenhouse is back in court ahead of his November trial. Rittenhouse is charged with the deaths of Joseph Rosenbaum and Anthony Huber from the August 2020 protests that followed the shooting of Jacob Blake. Officials say that the teenager wielded a rifle at the protesters. His defense team claims that Rittenhouse was acting in self-defense the night of the shootings. In a September hearing, the judge granted a motion to the defense that would exclude potentially damning photos of Rittenhouse with alleged members of the Proud Boys organization, a far-right political group. The judge did say that the prosecution can still attempt to prove Rittenhouse's involvement with the group. In a pretrial hearing on Tuesday, the defense requested that they call a use of force expert in the November trial. The prosecution argued that Rittenhouse is a teenager and not a police officer. The defense also asked to dismiss a charge that he possessed an AR rifle illegally. The judge denied that motion. Ringhouse's trial is slated to begin on November 1st. Let's bring back legal analyst Dina Dahl and Terry Austin to break down the Rittenhouse case as it approaches trial. Terry, there are a lot of motions to include or exclude certain information. In the grand scheme of things, how could this shape the trial?
You know, a well-run court is going to have multiple evidentiary issues decided before the trial. It streamlines the trial. It eliminates any sort of argument in front of the jury. And you'll see that they'll do arguments like this use of force or prior charges, prior bad acts, whether there's damaging videos. So I think all of this will help. And it helps the jury not to see any unnecessary information. All in all, it's a good idea.
Dina, one of those issues are the defense arguing to exclude the video of Rittenhouse saying he'd shoot men running out of a pharmacy. No decision yet, but how do you think the judge will rule?
Well, the judge said he is leaning toward excluding it. He wants the focus to be on what happened that day, and this video is 2 weeks prior. But it is very important for the prosecution's case because it helps to show that this wasn't self-defense. He went there with the intention, as he stated on the video, and that's why he brought a gun to this.
Yeah, of course, the whole more probative than prejudicial, but intent, as you brought up, Dina, is one of those things where they can bring in outside information to try to prove, as we're saying, his intent at the time. We'll see how the judge decides that as his case continues. Turning to more top legal news, where one of the accused murderers of Ahmaud Arbery is fighting to ban the jury from seeing a photo in his upcoming trial. Ahmaud Arbery was unarmed when he was shot and killed in February 2020 while jogging through his Georgia neighborhood. Father and son Travis and Gregory McMichael were charged with his murder in May 2020. William Bryan, a neighbor who filmed the encounter, was also charged with murder. As the trial looms in the distance, Travis McMichael's defense team fights to exclude a photo of his vanity license plate, which has a Confederate emblem on it. The license plate was on the car during the time of the shooting. Prosecutors say that evidence can be used to illustrate the intent and motive of Travis McMichael. The trial is scheduled to start on October 18th. Coming up on Law and Crime Daily, a defendant's phone call from jail asking that his cell phone be wiped. The latest testimony in the Mennonite murder trial. Plus, challenging a First Amendment right, will the reporter on Elizabeth Holmes' witness list be allowed to cover the trial? Our experts explain what a judge could rule still ahead. Welcome back to Law and Crime Daily. Elizabeth Holmes makes an addition to her witness list, the reporter who broke the Theranos corruption story back in 2015. Now, John Carreyrou's attorneys say it's just a ruse so that the reporter can't cover Holmes' trial. In a filing made on Friday, Carreyrou's attorney says it's unclear why Holmes would ask him to testify or if that would ever happen. They are now asking the court to keep in mind Carreyrou's First Amendment rights as a journalist, saying an exclusion order meaning a witness cannot be in a courtroom for other witness testimony or gag order meaning a witness cannot discuss their testimony should not apply to Carreyrou. In 2015, Carreyrou's reporting for the Wall Street Journal revealed many issues with the Theranos blood testing devices. Holmes, the former CEO of Theranos, claimed the company would revolutionize blood testing. She now faces 12 fraud charges in federal court. Here to discuss the latest twist in the Theranos trial is legal analyst Dina Dahl and co-host Terry Austin. Terry, do you think there's actual merit to having Carreyrou as a witness, or is it, as his attorneys are saying, just a move to keep him from covering the case?
Oh, this is absolutely a strategic move to keep him from covering the case. He is absolutely the last person the defense wants to have on the stand. Carreyrou is the one who uncovered all of the fraud that was going on. He was one of the first ones to discover what was going on at the company. And he, absolutely will hurt the defense if the defense calls him. He is the one who wrote the book Bad Blood and talked about secrets and lies in the Silicon Valley. And if they call him to the stand, he is going to uncover everything. I dare the defense to call him. So I think it's strategic for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But again, it seems kind of petty to have him not at least cover the case. It's not going to hurt them there. Dina, with Carreyrou on the witness list, he's probably going to argue his First Amendment right allows him to cover the case. Do you think he'd win that argument?
So what the judge will do is balance his First Amendment right against Elizabeth's home right to a fair trial. And it's these two competing interests that he will have a fact-based hearing to evaluate. There is not yet a subpoena for this reporter to be on the witness list, so the seriousness of it is not quite there yet. But I imagine if the judge does allow some sort of gag order, he might carve it out very particular way, maybe not allow him to speak at all about the trial, but maybe more specifically about his testimony.
No, it makes sense there, that carve out or well, I don't know, it can go either way. We'll have to just wait and see as this plays out. Like you said, no subpoena yet. Maybe that's coming shortly. Thank you both. An Illinois man avoids jury trial by pleading guilty to murder as opening statements were set to begin. On Tuesday, Timothy Banowitz of Edwardsville, Illinois, pled guilty to first-degree murder and 2 counts of armed robbery. In January 2020, Banowitz stabbed prominent attorney Randy Gorey to death after tying Gorey and his children up inside their home. Banowitz then stole between $4,000 and $5,000 and took off in the victim's Rolls-Royce SUV. Banowitz could be sentenced to life in prison for first-degree murder charge plus 30 for the robbery charges. On Tuesday, the judge ordered a pre-sentencing investigation, saying a sentencing hearing will be set at a later date. When we come back, the Mennonite murder trial is back in session. Hear firsthand accounts of the phone calls Mark Gooch made from jail after his arrest for the murder of Sasha Krause. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Half of the so-called Doomsday Duo appears in Idaho court requesting a new trial location that would yield a fair and impartial jury. Chad Daybell appeared in court via Zoom on Tuesday, where his attorney argued an impartial jury could not be found in Fremont County, Idaho. Daybell and his wife, Lori Vallow Daybell, face multiple charges, including conspiracy to commit murder and first-degree murder. In September 2019, Vallow's children, Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow, went missing. Their bodies were found in June 2020 on Daybell's property. Daybell and Vallow also shared an apocalyptic end-of-time beliefs, making way for their nickname as the Doomsday Duo. In a hearing on Tuesday, expert analysts explained the findings of a recent survey in the area.
The specific wording of the question was, and this is question 9, if you were to say you lean one way or the other right now about the guilt or innocence of Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell, which way would you lean? Now, from the 177 respondents, we had 82.4% said they were guilty. Okay. And only one person said they were innocent.
Law&Crime Daily will continue to follow this case and bring you the latest updates as we have them. On to Arizona, where testimony straight from the sheriff's office details the phone calls Mark Gooch made following his arrest. 22-year-old Gooch is charged with theft, kidnapping, and first-degree murder of Krause. He pled not guilty on all charges. Krause was last seen in January 2020. Her body was discovered in February 2020 near Flagstaff, Arizona. Prosecutors say Gooch drove from his Air Force base in Phoenix to Krause's Mennonite community in Farmington, New Mexico, where he abducted and later killed her. An autopsy determined Krause was killed by a gunshot wound to the head and blunt force trauma. Prosecutors say Gooch, who was raised in the Mennonite community, had disdain for the faith. The defense argues Gooch traveled to the Mennonite community to reconnect with the religion. On Tuesday, a lieutenant from the Coconino County Sheriff's Office took the stand, saying he listened in as Mark Gooch asked his brother to wipe his cell phone.
Was there a phone call where Mark Gooch talked to his brother Sam?
Yes, sir, there is. There's several.
And was there one referencing wiping a phone? Do you recall that?
Yes, sir, there is.
Can you describe what that was about?
That phone call was on April 21st, after Mr. Gooch was booked into the Maricopa County Jail. There was 2 phone calls. The second phone call involves Mark talking with his brother Sam, and you can hear in the background his sister Joy talking as well. During the second phone call conversation, there's discussion about taking care of his financial stuff, and then Mark asks Sam if he can remotely wipe his phone, and specifically asks to make sure he wipes everything off the phone to include the SD card.
Dina, on cross, the defense got the lieutenant to agree they weren't able to connect Gooch to the purchase of easily obtained but a unique pattern of duct tape. Does that raise any reasonable doubt to you in the case?
I mean, it does help the defendant, every hole that they can poke. But that's not enough when they can tie him to the gun that was used, that phone call that we just heard asking his brother to wipe the phone, and also cell phone data that puts him in the place where she was killed. So although it would have been helpful for the prosecution to tie that, I don't think that was necessary.
Absolutely. Terry, as a New York public defender, I find it fascinating and a little scary that a jury gets to ask questions of a witness after the lawyers are done. If you were a juror in this Arizona court, what questions would you be asking of the witness today?
You know what, Brian? I think it's a great idea. Even as a litigator, I think I would have liked it if the jury could ask questions. 8 states allow that, including Arizona. As you say, New York does not. I wouldn't ask anything more of these particular witnesses. Like Dina said, they couldn't connect the DNA to the gun or to the duct tape. But I would have asked that cell phone expert, listen, were there any other cell phones that connected to the victim's cell phone? Or was it just Mark Gooch? So I would ask that if they were allowed to ask additional questions.
Yeah, that'd be interesting because you can then see, was maybe someone else pinging along her cell phone? Maybe there's an accomplice. Maybe there's another story. I don't know, Terry, you might have signed up for the defense in this case. They would have probably loved to have heard that question. But thank you both for that. And thank you for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.